everybody, and welcome to this session on sport licensing at the occasion of the Indian Licensing Summit. I really thank the organizers for having invited me to moderate this very interesting session, and welcome these speakers who are senior experts in sport licensing. Sport licensing is one of an important category in the big licensing world, and let's say it's a category that can really be adapted to many kind of uses and content. I should very shortly introduce myself, and then I go straight to share the sport licensing experiences with the speakers we have on board. So about myself, I'm Cristina Angelucci, and I'm in charge of Licensing Magazine as editor-in-chief. Licensing Magazine is one of the leading global licensing publications, and we really cover all the industry categories and all the major territories, and we are partners of the major industry events. We have also on a website platform, weekly newsletters, and a huge social media platform and followers. We are also behind a lot of events organization, and well, we are in the biz since almost 20 years. I go straight to introduce the speakers because I don't want to waste time further. So I'm very pleased to welcome Vach. He told me not to say all the name, and CEO of Al Ihsan Sports based in Malaysia. It's one of the leading, sports retailer in Malaysia, and we will talk with him about his business in Malaysia and also how he's expanding his business further. And then I welcome Daniel Hammond, head of licensing of UEFA club competitions, and UEFA also is not yet present in terms of licensing in India, but we will talk with him about a very interesting and innovative way to make licensing and sport together. Then I'm very pleased to welcome Siddharth Churi, Associate Vice President, Global Partnerships, NBA India. And it's very interesting then to talk with him about the experience and the development that a brand as NBA is having in a territory as India. So I will ask, first of all, with this order, the three speakers to make a short introduction about themselves and about their, main focus for their business. To be short, so then we can proceed with the following questions. So I will start with Vach, please.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. It's a great pleasure to be speaking with everyone. Good evening to Sid, who's a very, very close friend of mine, and we worked together in the past. And Daniel, good morning to you. So just a bit about myself. I have worked across the categories of sports, lifestyle, retail primarily for the past 25 odd years. First in India, and for 50% of the time I've spent now outside of India, primarily working with brands across Asia. A bit about my company. I'm the CEO of Al Ihsan Sports. Al Ihsan Sports is the largest sports retailer in Malaysia. We are the largest football retailer in Malaysia, and also one of the largest football retailers across the whole of Southeast Asia. So we do all things football, including taking on licenses and also working closely with all the key global brands and working closely with the players and the fans across Malaysia. The latest license that we have took on is that of Liverpool Football Club, and we took it at the right time because when we took the license, I'd like to believe that's when LFC started winning again. So it was a very fortunate combination. So once again, I thank everyone, and I look forward to having this chat.
Thank you, Vaj. So Daniel, what about you?
And thank you very much again for the introduction as well. And obviously very excited to be on the panel representing UEFA's club competitions. As you mentioned at the beginning, we're not established in India yet, especially with licensing. Obviously, it's a big property from a broadcast level. So I'm here to learn. I'm learning a lot already this morning, and with my esteemed panelists, I'm excited to learn more today. I should start with a big congratulations to Bayern Munich and Sevilla, who have both just won our competitions, both reaching 6 titles. So we've had a very exciting end to what has been, as we all know, a very difficult and different year. Basically, I work at Team Marketing. We are UEFA's dedicated commercial agency across all club competition. So that's sponsorship, broadcast, licensing. And in our licensing program, it's a very interesting landscape in Europe with clubs, with leagues, and then with ourselves in there as well on a pan-European basis. So we've taken, as you mentioned and alluded to earlier, a slightly different approach with licensing where we're focusing on the fan engagement element and looking away from some of the more traditional licensing product areas that have been done in the past. I've been running the program now since 2012, and we started delivery the cycle before. And yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to learning a lot from the other panelists today. So thank you.
Well, me too. I will learn a lot, as sport is not my very core, let's say, personal attention. So I have to say sorry beginning. So I will learn really a lot as first person from this session. So and Siddharth, what shortly an introduction about your business in India, then we will go in deeper in this session about what you are developing there.
Sure. So hi everyone. Sports is my core. I've spent over 17 years in the sports industry across sportswear and general sports management. Worked in India, done stints in China, short stints in Germany as well. Like Vachas mentioned, Vachas and I were colleagues many years ago and friends over the years since then. I currently head global partnerships for the NBA in India, which includes not just licensing and merchandising, but also sponsorship sales, or as we call them, marketing partnerships. India, as you all obviously know, is the pinnacle basketball league in the world. There is everything else is a far second, third. But even in India, we're a very strong property. We're one of the largest sports licensing programs in the country, and also from as a brand that's very well known, not just due to its sports credentials, but also due to its cross-culture lifestyle credentials. We're very strong in India. So my job and my team's job is to leverage what the NBA has built across the world and in India over these years into great partnership properties.
Okay, so I will start with the questions for all of you. I will kindly ask you just to reply synthetic so we can go ahead with this panel in the right timing. So the very first question for all of you is how attractive is the Indian market to sports theme licensed products? I will ask this first to Siddharth, as you compared to the others, you are the one who is really developing sport licensed products in India. So according to you, how the Indian market is ready and attracted by
Christina, you can call me Sid. It will be a lot easier throughout our session.
Okay.
I think like good to take a step back and just see how sport has evolved in India. Sports licensing comes next, but sport itself in India, if you take 12, 15 years ago, we were a single sport country. Cricket was the only sport that really mattered. From then to now, the way the country has evolved into a multi-sport country, not only following multiple other sports like basketball, football, kabaddi, etc., not only on the global level, but also having put together some very solid sporting leagues at the local level. It clearly shows how the sport has grown in the country. It has grown financially as well. All these leagues, all these global properties activating in India, all of them have driven a lot of business as well for the sport in general. So from that perspective, it's been a really meteoric rise. Even if you look at sports licensing globally, over the past few years, licensing in general has grown. This was a Forbes report. It's grown about 3.2%, whereas sports licensing has grown at 4.9%. So it's higher than the industry average, and that's at the global level. So at an India level, it's growing even faster because the base for sports licensing was much smaller for sports merchandise per se. So it's definitely been a fast growth story. And watchers will remember when both of us were colleagues earlier. The brand that we worked with was less than 100 crores in retail revenue. It is now about 11 times that in India. So that shows how much sports merchandise per se has really grown in the country.
Vach, what is your opinion?
Sorry, Christina, could you repeat that?
Which is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I spent the first 50% of my life in India working with the brand Adidas, and I have personally seen how sports as a category has grown over the years. I was part of the company at a time when we were less than 100 stores, and I left at a time when we became close to 500 stores. So I think more from a general perspective, having spent time across Asia, I think I can tell you that I can tell you that whenever something bad happens around the world, the one thing that sort of ties everyone together, the one thing that unifies people together is sport. And the power of sport is incredible. So there is a reason why, even let's say, take the example of COVID, um, one of the first sports to relaunch, so to speak, and the amount of pressure was tremendous on the UK government, was football, because there's so much of negativity around you, people want to play sport. And we have seen how sports retail across the world, as the countries have opened up, have recovered the fastest. So while the overall GDPs of various economies globally are down, um, uh, of course, overall the business will be lower than last year. But in terms of the category specific growth or degrowth, sports will be probably amongst the least in terms of degrowth. So that just shows you the power of sport and the power of global sport like football, as an example. Um, in terms of the potential for sport in India, I think people like Sid are more closer to the ground, and they will be able to share more experiences, since I've been outside of India for the past 13, 14 years now. But I can share experiences on the other markets in Asia.
Okay. And Daniel, of course, India is not a market that you have approached yet in terms of licensing, but in terms of awareness for what is the core business of UEFA, so football, yes. So what is your opinion about this? So you think that there is a potential interest on sport-themed licensed products in India?
Completely. And again, as has just been discussed, looking at sports licensing generally, I think as the media landscape becomes more complicated, as people consume media in different ways, licensing becomes more relevant and important in sports as the way to engage and reach the fan and interact with the fan, whether matches are on or not. So I believe that is helping drive this importance in licensing. And then specifically when looking into India as a market, I mean, you only have to look at the passion for sports in that market. I mean, we talk about the IPL. We've seen the Football League and how that's grown over the last 5 years. The NBA, for example, I know you had the pre-season matches, I think it was last year in India, which went fantastically well as well. The appetite is there. The passion is there. It's such a hotbed for sports that I think that is your starting point. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the fan, if the fan is there and wants to consume that kind of content and information and products, licensing is able to reach people wherever they are, whatever platform, and through kind of giving people what they want in the way they want it. So especially when we look at Gen Z, millennials, this is where I think licensing can really drive. And in India specifically, I think this will help us mean more to the Indian public than just having the matches on the TV.
And I make this other question starting from you, Daniel. As now you are approaching the Indian market for licensing, according to you, no? So going straight to our business, to licensing business. So the licensing, sport licensing business has increased in the same time in India.
Yes. Yes. So for us, I mean, traditionally we were a global model anyway, so we were more limited. We did a lot of global partnerships. We understand the importance and necessity of the regional knowledge and experience and working with partners in those regions to be most effective. So I can see generally with India as a market, as I say, with that sports passion, that interest, I think there's almost the prospect of even more opportunities in these kind of markets. Brazil as well, these kind of where people are just so passionate, sports almost beyond just something you watch on TV. I mean, we talk about cricket almost being a religion when it comes to the passion that people have for it. So yeah, India for me is something that's really key. As I said at the outset, we want to learn and understand the nuances and what you need to do to be successful in that market.
Yeah, also because I suppose it's a very specific market that you can treat as a global, as other Western territories. And what about you, Vach? So India and also your case, Asian territories are ready, or I mean, sports licensing is increasing its business in those territories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Daniel just alluded to it, for retailers like us, licensing is a very, very important way to bring brands closer to the fans. And for the brands, I think licensing is a very good way to become global. Global meaning you have a global brand. Most of the time, those global brands would not have a deep understanding of the local consumer tastes, right? So licensing to me is the best sort of way to bridge the gap between local knowledge, which the local operator or a retailer like ourselves would have, and the global brand, which really is very, very well known in that market. I'll give you an example of what we've done with Liverpool Football Club. Malaysia is a small country, only about 30 million population, but the passion for English Premier League and the Champions League, UEFA tournaments is huge, is just incredible to see. In terms of sheer engagement levels, Malaysia has a higher and a deeper engagement for football than even Brazil and Spain.
Wow.
As a proportion of population. It's really incredible to see, Christina. So when we launched Liverpool football license last year, 2019 April was when we launched. So in less than 1 month, we took it to about 60 locations across Malaysia. And the growth in sales, now just imagine, this is COVID, right? Last month, our growth in LFC sales is close to 1500% over last year. Who's going to think that this is COVID?
Wow.
So just imagine that, because Liverpool has won EPL after 30 years. So fans want a piece of that. They cannot go to Anfield. They cannot celebrate with the team, but they want a piece of that action. So, and that is what licensing is able to really do. We created merchandise which was very, very relevant. I have with me a mask of Liverpool Football Club right here with the Champions League champions with the EPL trophy, right? I have sold 10,000 units of this in 2 weeks. So that's what licensing is able to do. You connect to the event and you connect to the relevancy and the trend, and you're able to do that immediately. Now just imagine if a brand wants to do this, they will take a much longer time, and they may come up with designs or products which may not be right for this specific market. So I think licensing has a huge role to play in actually creating and building the relevance for the brand and go deep with the fans.
And Siddharth, in your case, again, you are the one who touches most of the local business. So what about in India? Sport licensing is increasing according to you in terms of importance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add to what Vachas mentioned about engagement. So we know that NBA is not the biggest sport in the country from the following perspective, but in terms of engagement, and especially on social media, which is a huge platform for us, we are in fact the number one in on Facebook in terms of percentage engagement on our Facebook platform. So this was a stat that Facebook shared with us, that of all the sports pages operating out of India across cricket, football, etc., the NBA page has the highest number of users engaging on a certain frequency basis with us. Now, why is that? That's because the content we put out is very, very relevant. It's short form, highly entertaining. We are blessed that the sport of basketball itself, lends to creating this kind of content. And secondly, what the way the NBA brand has been built, it is much more than just sport. We built the way the league is conducted, the way content is captured and presented to our consumers, the way there are brand extensions created. NBA has its fingers in many pies, in be it in entertainment, in music, in fashion, etc. And all of that means your audience, which was a narrow, let's say, sports consumer audience, is now a very, very wide sports come entertainment come youth culture, sport, pop culture, street, where you have that entire audience available to you. So when you have that, that is an inherent strength of the brand that is irreplaceable. So that is what is driving a lot of growth. So to answer your primary question, how is it growing? There are some brands that are growing at a very, very rapid pace. Yes, some brands are slow, some are keeping up with the average, and it all depends on what does the brand stand for, what does it have to offer, who is the target consumer, how are we reaching that consumer, and to great extent also, are we working with the right partners? Do the partners also align with the same values, the same objectives that the brand has in the country, and do they also put that right amount of effort and the right type of effort to grow the brand? So I think that's very important to grow in this market, in any market, frankly, for that matter.
Yeah, and I think that what you say is also valid for other territories. Sorry for before, but there was some noise around, so I had to close window, etc. So then I would love to go in deep about what your specific business is, and in particular your experience in the sports licensing world. So I will start with Vach. As we said before, he's a huge sport retail. He has a huge sport retail business, and so what I wonder is how you are developing your business beyond Malaysia, and so in Asia, and also in which other territories, and how?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Christina. So we are the number one sports retailer in Malaysia. We have about 130 stores. I believe that we still have a huge headroom in terms of potential growth in Malaysia itself. So I would like to first ensure that we are saturating the potential of Malaysia itself before we look to go regional. We are in talks with certain partners across the region because we believe that our business model has a huge amount of opportunity in markets outside of Malaysia. Our business model is very simple. We essentially curate global brands, licenses, and we bring them at very, very affordable prices for consumers and fans, so and sports lovers. So uh, and we do that in very approachable and very, very friendly shopping environments. We have a very fast growing e-commerce business as well, which we just relaunched 4 months ago, driven because of the COVID lockdown, knowing that we would not be able to operate our offline stores. We sort of we got to know about 15 days before the lockdown that there is a potential sort of conversation going on where we would have to lock down our stores. All non-essential retail would got locked down. So we expedited the e-commerce play, and our e-commerce business has grown in the past 3 months almost 20 times. So that continues to grow, and that's one which we believe we can first take outside of Malaysia. But I think as a business model, we our model is very, very ripe, very relevant for most of the emerging markets in Asia. So natural expansion in Southeast Asia first, maybe over the next 3 years or so. And then we would look to move towards the Middle East and then North Africa. We obviously driven largely by a lot of licenses and even the key brands like Nike, Adidas, and Puma.
But just an additional question, Vach. For the e-commerce, is it global or only focused on the territories where you are already present?
It's right now only focused on the territories where we are present. But this is something that we can immediately take outside of Malaysia as well, by getting into logistics alliances and collaborations and partnerships. We can, for our own licenses and brands, we could look for opportunities outside as well. A lot of licenses that we take on are actually offered to us regionally, but we don't do that because we like to first, explore and fulfill the potential within Malaysia, and then over a period of time, look to take it outside of Malaysia.
And a very last question: do you have also foreign licensees who come to you to sell their products in your stores?
You mean licensors?
No, I mean licensed products. So I mean licensees who come to you from abroad and ask to be included in your stores for their products.
I mean, as you know, whenever a licensor gives a license, it's for that particular territory. So unless those people have the rights for,
he has to be authorized.
So as an example, a very good example is I had a conversation just now with Disney. So previously, Disney was doing licenses for with one of the partners sitting in Thailand, but they believe that, and we were working with the Thailand partner, bringing the Disney products, sports related. So basically, this is like a collaboration between Disney and sporting goods. Uh, so, but they believe that we can do a lot more. So we first started with that, we explored, and then now we're looking to get into this on our own. So that's the kind of stuff which we do.
It's very, very interesting also to learn that you focus more on what the licensor says and then on the licensee. And we know that many times licensees try to go beyond their boundaries, and so that's why I was asking.
We don't encourage anything where a licensee, if he doesn't have rights, we wouldn't do it.
It's very correct. It's as things should be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Siddharth, instead about your experience, so how now more concretely you are working to develop in terms of actions the MBA licensing business in India through licensing and sponsorships. So which are the actions you are concretely doing, and if you want to make a couple of examples of latest projects and deals that you have got and done.
Sure. So let's look at it on two fronts. But basically the MBA plays on its strengths, and the two fronts I'm looking at is what about the MBA appeals to the consumers, and what about working with the MBA appeals to potential licensees. So I'll cover both areas. On the consumer front, NBA is Americana. Nothing could be more American than the sport of basketball, than the NBA, than our star athletes, than our most popular teams. So that is something that we feed off very, very strongly. The consumers in India are lapping up Americana very strongly. They love American culture, food, music, fashion, etc. So we play to our strengths on that front. So as an example, a number of our product ranges focus on the key cities in which NBA teams are based: New York, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, etc. While some of these teams may not be at the top of the league at present, but just because they are based in an iconic city, their logo is so well known, well recognized because of all the legacy behind it, because they've been part of the city for all these decades. That puts them on the top in terms of consumption. I think I mentioned a little earlier also, NBA is also well beyond just sport, music, fashion, entertainment. So we kind of feed off that as well. So a lot of our collaborations are in that space also. So as an example, we've done fast fashion, high fashion ranges with brands like Jack and Jones and Pakpot India, where we gave them some guardrails, and then we said between these guardrails you have full freedom to use the NBA IP and tweak it such to what your consumers are expecting from you. And it was a win-win situation for both of us, because for Jack and Jones, there was never a sports minded consumer coming shopping with them. So when they took our IP, tweaked it to make it quirky, more fashionable, it gave them a new consumer from the sport side. It gave us a new consumer from the fashion side, and both won. So we work along. Similarly, on the music front, we have a partnership with JioSaavn, which is one of the leading music streaming companies in India. So we work with music on that, and again, that connect was because music fans, NBA fans, there is an overlap, as well as there are new fans coming to the genre because of the partnership. So that really helps on the consumer side. On the licensee side, I'll say a couple of advantages that the NBA has. One is that it's the umbrella organization. It's the pinnacle basketball league. So there's really nothing beyond that that someone can aspire to follow. And within that also, it's the umbrella organization that covers all the 30 teams, all the 450 players. So what happens is, as a licensee, if you work with the NBA, you get everything that the NBA has to offer. There is no pick and choose, and hence uh, you at any given time in a season, you can always ride the winning horse. Let's say a certain team which was popular 2 years ago is not popular anymore because some players retired, some got traded away, etc. But another 2, 3 teams are emerging. You can immediately pivot your business to have more concentration of merchandise from the currently strong teams, and kind of fade off the other teams which are not strong anymore. Um, there was this funny conversation I was having with a couple of our partners, one of them who's a licensee of FC Barcelona and another who's a licensee of Manchester City. And we were talking about Lionel Messi, him moving from Barcelona to Man City. How does that affect the Barcelona partnership, license partnership? How does it suddenly boost the Man City partnership? Now, these kind of situations don't occur in a partnership with the NBA because you've got every team with you. So that's one advantage for a licensee. And the second advantage, of which I think is even more important, is that we are present in India. We have a full-fledged office running here with dedicated teams taking care of every single vertical. So there's a separate team for broadcast and content and media distribution, a separate team managing our marketing communications. My team manages licensing, merchandising, and sponsorships. There's a team that manages basketball operations, which is the entire grassroots basketball development, elite development. They run the NBA Academy in India, which is the elite basketball, which is like the pinnacle basketball training academy in the country, where you get full scholarships once you've gone through our entire scouting program. So a lot of these elements are actually helping develop the game itself. So we're not just trying to feed off the brand where it stands as of today, but we are developing the game and developing the brand for tomorrow. And not only the brand, but we're also developing the fan base for tomorrow. So our as an example, our grassroots program called the Junior NBA started in 2013, and since then to now we've trained more than 11 million children across 13,000 schools across the country, more than 34 cities covered. We've trained them directly via the NBA and via NBA coaches on learning the game of basketball. And many of these kids learned for the first time, depending on which cities we were in. So we are building that fan base also for the future, which is something that is huge advantage that the NBA has to offer for a partner in the country.
Wow. And Siddharth, I've not understood, perhaps, I don't know if you said, which are your main focus categories for NBA in India in terms of licensing? Which are the categories for you?
Good question. So the NBA came to India more than 9 years ago. We set up an office in 2011. We started working on the merchandising business only in 2014-15. So we took that time to build a fan base, etc. But at that time, when we started, also the more typical categories were apparel, footwear, accessories, which were the strong categories, and we fed off that really well. But what we've seen emerging over the past few years is non-traditional categories are really coming to the forefront. Currently in the licensing space, one of our biggest partnerships is in fantasy gaming with Dream 11, which is India's largest fantasy gaming partner. So that partnership has not only given us a huge new fan base, massive revenue potential. It has driven increase in viewership on broadcast. So that partnership has helped in so many different ways. And now, given disruption that COVID has caused, another category which was emerging slowly but has suddenly shot up is gaming. Whether it's console gaming, whether it's mobile gaming, that's really shot up a lot. And this is a category that has been big in the US and US, China, Japan, Korea, etc. for a long time. But in India, we were lagging behind. But like every, it's been mentioned before, every crisis also throws up opportunities, not just challenges. So this is a great opportunity for us. So we've immediately started engaging more with local gaming companies. So while we were bringing in a lot of global partners and activating them in India, we realized that there is potential to really build something big locally. And so that's another key focus area going forward in the financial year 21 for us.
And the very last question for you: how many partners you have on board now in India?
We have about 13 partners in the licensing space. And like I mentioned to you, I also head sponsorships. So in that, there's another 12 and counting partners in the sponsorship space.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Well done. So Daniel, we know that you talk about us about an innovative way to make sport licensing that is experiential licensing. So I really would love you to explain this new conception of sport licensing and how you see it, and also, according to you, how it can be applied to the India market, of course.
Yes, certainly. Well, I mean, it's fascinating listening to the NBA because we've been evolving and trying to enhance our licensing program more and more. The big difference is we don't have the clubs. We don't have the other assets that go with it. So we are talking about a competition. So that's why we've had to look at licensing slightly different, look at our role in what is quite a complicated landscape that we work in. And that's why product has to be central with the licensing program, merchandise, everything else has to exist. But we're trying to complement that and look at other ways that we can talk to the fan, interact with the fan, and almost allow the fan to touch the brand, as it were, to really experience it. And then when you're looking at markets outside of Europe, especially when we're talking India here, we're talking Asia, you go to these markets, the chance for a fan to see the trophy, the chance for the fan to see these things that they just see on TV, that's the kind of areas that we want to grow. The key for us is credibility and relevance of all our partners, of the categories that we work on, and how credible they are to ultimately to the fan. Because football clubs will do lots and lots of products. What we don't want to do is just give the fan additional kind of options competing there. We want to have our own role to play on that landscape. And that's why we're now looking at a number of opportunities. Experiential, you mentioned. This is an area where we're really open at the moment to look at different concepts. So we're currently looking at football-based activation venues. So people doing football skills, measuring those skills, looking how they perform against people in other places. Maybe you compare yourself against a player who's gone through things, measuring passes and things. So we're looking at that concept. We're also looking at more of a traditional experiential, food and beverage, match viewing, going along and having a bit of a museum interactive experience with it as well. And then on top of that, with the permanent, we're also looking at road shows and how you can take things on the road to high footfall areas. And it all comes back to what we've all been saying about licensing. What does the brand mean to the fan? And we're able to come into these different markets and regions and really give the fan the experience. So we have the products, they choose to, for us, play our simulation video game with EA Sports. So you can win the Champions League on that. We want to then give a different audience the right platform that they can engage with our program as well. So the idea is to look at concepts and opportunities that aren't just relevant to one core audience. We can almost have different concepts for younger audiences. We can have different concepts for the older audience, the more traditional viewership. And the idea that we're trying to look at here goes back to the regional expertise. You cannot deliver with a global partner an experience in India that's going to resonate and completely work well with the fans. We need to work with specialists in that market to really know what do we need to deliver, how can we deliver it, because every single market will deliver a different experience for the fan, but based on the same brands. So the Champions League will be the consistent, but how they then enjoy and experience and follow that will, I see, differ market to market. And then you accompany that with things like esports, huge growing thing, the buzzword everyone wants to be involved with right now. No one quite knows, right, how we're going to do everything on the commercial side. But what esports does is allows you to engage and talk to an audience who might not necessarily be watching traditional football. So this could be an audience who may not have watched the Champions League in the past, but being involved in the virtual football world gives us an opportunity to look at how can we bring these people across into the real world of football. And it goes again back to what was mentioned earlier. It's about a brand for tomorrow. It's about the future fan. How do we stay relevant with all these different options on media, on platforms, and how people are engaging with things? It's about variety. It's about taking that experience, your brand, to people in the way that those people actually want it, in the right tone of voice, in the right way, and with the right partners. And that's the key with a region like India. If we delivered something like experiential in that kind of region, we'd want that regional expertise and knowledge.
Wow, a couple of questions. The first is this very interesting perspective and extremely innovative in terms of sports. Have you already experienced? Have you already something that you are developing? I mean, general, not in Asia or in India, but in general. With this new perception?
Yes, so we have been developing a number of initiatives for quite a long period. Obviously, experiential mixed with COVID has thrown up a lot of challenges, but it's also made us readdress it and look at social distancing. What does that mean? How can we make it work? And I'm still confident with the concepts and the ideas we've got, they can work in any environment. So we have an activation in the UK, it will be London-based, that we hope to open early next year. We have, and that will be like a football activation, playing the game, getting involved, having our partners, so our sponsor partners, having additional exposure in it. And that's key here. Fan engagement, but giving our partner network a chance to reach the fan in different ways away from the match as well. So the London one will be that football-based. We're looking at Brazil, obviously a huge fan base in football. It's interesting when you go somewhere like Brazil because the Champions League becomes really important and the club's almost secondary because they follow a lot of the players ahead of the team. So Neymar, as an example, a lot of fans in Brazil would then have moved to PSG when he moved and they would support that club. So in Brazil, we want to give people a chance to watch matches, to experience the Champions League, to take the trophy there. And again, goes back to this, being able to really interact and touch the brand. And a third concept we're hopefully going to look at again in the Americas region will be in Mexico. And that's more of a fan festival style of concept around the final. So a celebration of the final that we do in the host city in Europe when we host these finals. We give all the fans who come to watch the match that experience of the Champions League. We're trying to take that experience, package it up and deliver it again in a regional way to different places. And Mexico will be one of the first ones we hope to exploit with that concept as well.
Let's say that sorry, Raj, please go.
Yeah, sorry, if I can just, I really like what Daniel is mentioning. So I just got reminded of some of the things that we do. I think the concept of experience is different for different markets. So it could range from as simple as, doing a very special exclusive merchandise to, it could also mean a chance for a fan to meet with a legend, It could also mean, as an example, give an opportunity to the fan. Now, you'll be surprised that there are so many people here in some of the emerging markets like India or even Malaysia for that matter, who are so fanatical about their La Liga or their EPL club, but they don't get a chance to go to the stadium and watch the match live. Even to do that for them is a very big thing. So what if somebody were to offer them an opportunity to say, okay, you enter this contest and you will get a chance to go and watch your favorite club and perhaps meet your favorite player. So these are the kind of things that, this is like once in a lifetime experience. So these are the kind of things that, local partners can do or do for some of these brands and make it happen for the fans locally.
Yeah, and also if I can say, it can be an opportunity for the fans to get some exclusive licensed products as well, no? Because I suppose that you will combine to these unique experiences also a kind of bookshop, I suppose. Something like that, no?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's exactly how we've seen it. So retail opportunity, and we all know retail, it is changing, and experience is going to come into that world. So for us, I think that is really key. You said it, fanatical fans outside Europe. We give extra exposure to our partners. We give broadcasters opportunities with content. It's trying to join the dots and really make licensing valuable to the complete business, whilst being that connection with the fan. And as you say, that can be capsule ranges, that can be extension of selling you OLPs. It's endless if you can get the right concepts.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's really impressive, and I wish you that following this coronavirus crazy period, you will have several of these case history, one in particular in India next year. Why not? I would love to go through conclusions as time has run, and I'm very happy that we have shared so many interesting content. So at this period, this time of the year, a compulsory question is, what about the future? So which are your plans for the next future? 2021, I would say, but also more in general. So Vach, what about you?
First, to survive this storm called COVID. I mean, for businesses, cash is king, right? So you want to make sure that you don't do anything stupid. You don't, you conserve cash. We're very fortunate in the sense that we actually saw the onset of COVID way back in February, and I used to have discussions with my board on how this could become a huge sort of black swan event. So we in the month of March, we built a 3-scenario plan where we said, what is the worst case that can happen? Are we going to have 1 lockdown in this year? What if we have 2 lockdowns? So let's prepare for that. So we made sure that, we built a zero-based budget, really brought down our expenses and costs to minimal. What we see is we sort of negotiated with various brands and reworked our entire inventory planning for the year. So we were pretty well served that we sort of had a foresight to look at this. Once that is through, once you know that you're going to survive, touch wood, we will. I think the next thing is that you need to prepare for how the consumers are going to shop in the future. Are they going to shop like before? You need to make sure that you have the right SOPs at your stores. Offer consumers like a surety and assurance that if they come to your store, they will be safe. So you put all the SOPs that are required in order to maintain safety. And then you cannot do such large scale events as you used to do in the past. So even the matches, even the leagues that have, our local league has also started just a couple of days ago. It's going to be played in front of empty stadium. So obviously it'll mean not such pleasant numbers for a lot of clubs globally. So how do you survive that? So open up slowly, gradually. I don't see too much of travel happening, at least for the next 1 year. I don't think people will begin to travel globally at all till at least Q2 of next year. Only travel if you have to. So there will be a lot more a lot more meetings using technology. a lot of deals happening on the on calls and on Skype or on Zoom calls. So Zoom is the one which is making a lot of money now, by the way. It's probably getting more and more valuable now. So I think we need to prepare for the new normal, and we have to learn to live with it. COVID's not going to go away so fast, unfortunately.
I think that every single word that you have said is terribly true. I'm in charge of also of trade events, and I'm honestly extremely concerned about the opportunity that we will have big trade shows in the next months. I'm not talking about October or November. I'm talking about the first half of next year. Big companies that were used to be put big budgets on trade shows are almost stopped now to travel and to make any kind of event investment. So big shows need of big guys to be alive. So if they miss that, then the big show itself can take place. What I want to see is always the positive side also in this catastrophic pandemic. And I think that we are forced to change our attitude from every point of view and to create, as you say, a new normal, that it will be a new life. And this new life somehow will be less crazy as we were used to be before. Then is probably that in 2-3 years we will be crazier than before, but more conscious perhaps of which could be our balance somehow. No? So what is important for us, as you said at the beginning, is to survive to these all and to go ahead. Luckily, business has not totally stopped, and also people are moving forward and are building new tools to face this crazy period. And Siddharth, which are your next plans?
So you're right. There are challenges and there are opportunities. When a door closes, there are others that open. So I'll touch upon what Daniel mentioned about experiential marketing. That is something that we also do quite a lot. In fact, the NBA takes great pride in having a lot of on-ground events in the country, in India, and all of that have gone away. So we are reimagining various scenarios, how to do them with social distancing in place, or should we do them online or virtual only? Is it possible to drive the same amount of engagement in a virtual event? Maybe it's possible to do even more because the reach definitely is a lot more. We have to figure out how that in-person engagement needs to be somehow still delivered in this virtual space. So we're working on that. Offline retail sales, of course, tend to be grim right now, but then we've gone a lot stronger on e-commerce. And not just us, like as an example, there is the NBA app, which is very popular, but so far it's been very focused on content, live streaming, feature content, player stats, profiles, etc. That is evolving into more digital commerce as well. But not just us, even our partners. So we have an NBA fanware partnership with a company called Sudhiti Industries. They have now doubled down on building their own e-commerce portal as well, because they've also realized that a lot of their offline retail touchpoints are not going to be the same going forward. So that's on one front. On the other side, even just beyond licensing, if you just look at consumer experiences, the NBA is a very innovative company, very tech-forward company. And while we are constantly looking for new ways to engage, COVID has just kind of accelerated that. So I'll maybe give you a quick few examples. The NBA season was suspended for a few months, and then we put together this whole thing, which we colloquially call the bubble, which was this entire sanitized area in the wide world of sports complex in Florida, in Orlando. And that's where all the teams came in quarantine, tested, and started playing games. Now, in that environment, no fans. What did we do? We because there's no fans there, we realized that now there is more room to explore new camera angles. So you look search an opportunity in what is a challenge. So we added many more camera angles, more moving cameras, rail-mounted cameras in the arena, and we are capturing the kind of content now we've never been able to capture before. And we are all, internally, we are all discussing maybe next year and 5 years and 10 years from now, when there will be fans back in the arena, this content that we captured during these few months will still be pinnacle content because of the way the camera angles are capturing the movement and these players, flying through the air and dunking the ball. So we worked on that. We worked on putting across giant screens in the arena where seats used to be, and now these screens. It's an activation we're doing with Michelob Ultra, one of our partners in the US, where through their program you can actually land up getting a seat at these virtual seats. So then now fans across the globe who would otherwise wouldn't dream of getting to watch a game live, as Watches was saying, now at least they get to see themselves on television, sitting with a group of people from different parts of the world, all talking to each other, fighting for their respective teams, while all this banter is visible on screen. And this makes for wonderful content and wonderful consumer experiences. So we've tried to find that little silver lining in this dark cloud, and hopefully it will define the new consumer experience parameters going forward. Even when things come back to normal, maybe some of these elements will find a place to continue in the new world.
In the new normal. We are extremely late, so Daniel, I have to ask you to be extremely short, and unless they cut us off. So very shortly, your next plans have really 2 words, and then we say hi to everybody.
I think just simply licensing is going to be more important than ever in the coming years, because whether fans are in stadiums or not, we are going to be the area of the business in sports, I'm talking here, that we're going to be reaching out to fans, and two-way communication is going to be key for us to stay in touch and be relevant. So I'll keep that very short.
Yeah, well, I love you for this. I think that you are totally right. Unless people can go back to stadium, licensing can be the way that fans can touch their idols. So thanks for everybody for having enjoyed this very interesting session. It was extremely rich and packed of very interesting content. We will work on to write an exclusive article on our magazine so we can read them with a calm and not running. And thanks to you all, thanks to Franchiseindia, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Grazie, Cristina. Ciao.
You're really welcome.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Ciao.